Are we live? Are we
Now we're
live
live.
yet? Are we live?
Are we
Are we live?
revisiting the first episode, and are we gonna have a 10-minute conversation if we're live yet?
We should, because Ali's exposure is really something to worry about.
Yeah.
What's going on, Ali, with your exposure?
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. I keep meaning to troubleshoot after each episode, but then it gets lower and lower on the priority list.
You go.
How do I look now?
Focus.
Oh, now I look great, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
looks
can
much
keep my
better.
hand right here the whole time.
Please.
I mean,
do.
if anybody
That's
watching,
really great.
This looks great, right? There's
Yeah,
Talk to
something.
the hand.
Yeah, I'll talk like this the whole time.
Talk to the hand.
That looks
great.
good.
So, what kind of
I think what's
camera do you
happening
have that kind of focuses you and overexposes you? What is that? Can't you just switch to your internal camera?
It's a Razer Keo camera, and you know what? Maybe it's a zoom preference. Let's see.
Try to figure that out. David,
Yes.
you've worked on putting our very first episode into a podcast,
Yes, I have.
and you've mentioned that all the first like 7-10 minutes of our very first show was only talking about technical issues. Shall we just continue doing that?
Yeah. Let's give everyone a taste.
Look at Ali. Look what he's doing.
Like literally, that's for the whole
I'm
show.
gonna
It's
act
just like
out
this.
whatever David says about the technical issue.
Yeah, it was just like everyone going, "Can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute, I'm having issues." And then, are we live? Wait, I think we're live.
Are we live?
Hold on. Let's this link, and we're like talking about. Let's send a link here. No, I'm checking on Chris's page. It looks like we are live, and just like it's that for a long time.
And there was like 3 people watching, and then there was like 10 people watching. And the very first comment we got was from a guy in Brazil.
Yeah. Because we didn't we just went live. We kind of announced it like just before, so like no one really knew. Everyone was just like, all right, we're going live now. We're putting it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and then people jumped on eventually. So it was funny.
And this whole thing started, David, because in reminiscing, because I listened to the whole show today just to kind of get a primer in for today's episode. But this started with you doing a chat with beer with somebody, or you were just chatting to fans who were asking you questions?
I went live on my Facebook page, and I was just drinking beer, and I was just chatting, like, chatting with people in the comments. People were just leaving comments, and I was saying hi to people. People were asking questions, and I was just answering questions and drinking beer. And then, I think I streamed for like 3 hours. I ended up getting pretty drunk, and I just started putting on records too. Like I was like in my record collection, I was playing music and just talking, just whatever. And Chris, I guess he tuned into that, and he was like, "Oh, it was kind of funny."
I tuned in, and I thought like, wow, David, that's a really cool thing. Like, I mean, the pandemic just started, and we all knew we're not going to be in touch with any other people, and especially not the people dancing in front of us, people listening to our music. So what is the next best thing we could do? Is we could chat together and have and give the people the possibility to listen to what we're talking about and what our thoughts about the music is, and all that stuff. And then I said, like, David, don't you want to do that together? Like, I find this so great, the opportunity to just speak to the people who enjoy our music, who would normally enjoy listening to our music, dancing on the dance floor. Since we can't do this in the pandemic, let's talk to each other and have them take part in it, and have them. Like in the beginning, the idea was like having them ask questions. I'm sorry, everybody watching, like we dismissed that idea pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And we're so narcissistic that we just talk to each other. And that's kind of how it started. So welcome we're having the 1 year anniversary of DJs and beers. Who would have ever thought we make it 1 year?
It's well, cheers. Oh, everyone's having a beer this time. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Look at that.
Oh, look at this. I could just keep the beer right here, and then now my exposure is good. I'll just hold beer right here. I need like a beer holder right here.
Let's first of all say we all miss Matt, Radio Slave. Matt, if you're listening right now, we're so sad you can't make it, but Matt is really feeling shit. He doesn't have COVID. He did a test this morning, but he has an incredible bad cold, and he literally can't do the show today. Yeah, so Matt, we're all with you. We all wish you a really speedy recovery of your really bad cold, and we hope you're going to be back next week.
It's funny because I thought Matt was on the first episode, but he wasn't. So when did Matt come in? Was it from third one? Chris, you kind of roped the rest of us in, right?
Yeah, David and I were like, kind of like, let's do this. Like, how should we do this? And then I told David, maybe we can do this like with the Zoom thing. What is this Zoom thing? Like 1 year ago, literally nobody really know what Zoom was.
I never used it.
Yeah, nobody ever used it. And then I said, David, let's just see if Mo, if Ali, and if Matt wants to just join us talking about shit, drinking beers. And
I do recall.
I think when did Matt come in, Mo?
No, I said I do recall a year ago. I had just got out of Berlin. Yeah, and I was in quarantine in a hotel. I was stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks. And I do recall, the Marriott Hotel. I do recall sitting and chatting with you and David on a private video call one time, and we were kind of discussing that as well, about how to try to make this go live some way.
That's right.
Oh, did you ever leave the hotel during those 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I had to go do my own grocery shopping, and the thing is the hotel was in my neighborhood, so it was like I hadn't seen my kid in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
they're literally like a few blocks away from me, and my wife was like leaving me stuff in the garage because everybody was super paranoid about she's like, yeah, I'm gonna leave some food or dinner for you in the garage, just open it and take it, and then I just go back to the hotel, which I thought was ridiculous.
Through like glass or something, or like across the.
I think we did like once or twice or something like that.
I love you.
I mean, it was pretty ridiculous in the first place to have to do that, but I was just complying with what I was told to do. So,
but that I was when I was listening to the first episode, like it was a trip to just how everyone, like no one knew pretty much anything. We were just like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I had to fly home right away, and all these gigs are being canceled, and we were just kind of like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and Chris was like the one that was in the highest spirits, like, oh yeah, I can actually just chill out now. And
Chris, I can't believe how happy you sounded.
He sounded happy.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I'm
like, sound happy.
Really? This sounds like a much needed break. Like you sounded a little bit relieved, I guess, because of all the traveling. But I'm not because of COVID, but I'm saying like it seemed like you were relieved of having this kind of break that.
Probably because I literally the week earlier I came back from South Africa, South America, which was quite a tough tour, and I remember my last gig was in France, in Paris, for the Concrete guys, which organized an open air, and COVID was already a thing, and we were all really like, what the hell is going on? And maybe you're right, maybe I was just like tired of the South America tour, and then playing the gig in Paris, thinking like, oh, if there's one weekend going to be canceled, that's fine. I'm going to be staying home and have a rest.
Yeah.
One fucking weekend turned out to be
a year later
54 fucking weekends. What show is this, Ali? Which number?
49.
I guess it's. I'll tell you in a second.
It's 49.
We are on week 53. Week 53. I don't know. But
we skipped
We did
took a
skip.
break.
We skipped 2, 3 shows. So 50 shows.
This is number 50 then?
I think it's number 50. 49?
Justin, our super producer in the background, Justin Juice Productions.
Yeah.
49.
You said 49? 49. Amazing.
Man, I wish I would have got a cup for this. Is this a darker beer?
Yeah, that's the
Show me
bomb,
the label.
I love that beer. St. Bernardus.
Turn around. You know it, David? What is
Great
it?
label.
It's a Belgian beer.
I was there when he bought it. I told him to get it.
So Chris, you were you were in good spirits, and you were quite chatty. We noticed you were really leading the.
Oh yeah,
and I think we were all trying to figure out, how this show is going to evolve, like what the format will be. Because in the beginning, when we started, we had no idea what format we wanted, and if you recall, like there was not even talk about having a guest on.
Yes,
it was supposed to be us, shooting the shit, and then that turned into, okay, well maybe we should bring a guest on, but let's keep the guest a surprise. So and the first guest, I just wrote down everyone that played on my little cheat sheet here, and it was Miss Kitten, Caroline, and she just texted me. She said she's watching, so we all have to say hello to Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Hello.
She's outside.
She had the Aphex Twin mask on.
Yeah, the Aphex Twin mask on. Yeah.
And how many people did we have that were hiding behind? Was it 2 or 3?
As far as secret, we had Miss Kitten, Dustin Zahn, Marco Ferroni, and Ellen Alien was the last secret guest. And then we decided, well, it might make more sense to kind of promote the guest in advance. And the show evolved again. So we were really just getting our feet wet with trying to figure out what the format of this was going to be. And in the same time, trying to cope with what was happening with the pandemic, and using the show as we've mentioned for a bit of group therapy, weekly group therapy. And so many people over the last year have mentioned how much they value the weekly show in their lives and how it helped them cope with it. So to all those people that have been with us from the beginning, thank you. And
man,
cheers.
Thanks to everyone. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
A year. I mean, damn.
We've had,
and I think maybe go ahead.
I said we've had quite a few incredible guests on the show too. I mean, some absolute legends have come by.
I wouldn't even dare to say we had only incredible guests on the show.
Absolutely.
Nice save, Chris.
I just got a thought. Like, why should we treat today's show? I mean, we don't really have an end point. Why should we treat today's show that each one of us is pretending to be tonight's guest for a certain amount of time? So we treat each one of us as the guest for a certain amount of time.
Do we have enough time for that? Because we certainly don't have enough time to cover me, that's for sure.
Shall we start with you, Mo? Shall we start?
No, please not. No.
I think, but haven't we talked about one another over the course of each episode?
The first,
not
the
enough.
First one,
I think.
Yeah, the first one was like, I think the first one was like how each one of us met.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, how each one of us met. And then Chris told the story about forgetting his gear and then having to drive back to the hotel.
First time he met Mo.
And then the party got busted.
Yeah.
How come all the stories have to do with me? All the stories have to do with me throwing an illegal rave somewhere. That's for sure.
And what threw me off the most was how bad Mo sounded on that first episode. First few episodes was and how good he started to sound once he got back in his home studio. Yeah. And, got some new gear. and made us get some new gear.
Yeah, we all bought mics.
By proxy.
Yeah,
it was interesting. It was I don't know. It made me laugh and smile, and it's crazy to hear just how far we've come, and even though we're kind of still sort of in the same situation, but just in the show wise,
Yeah, we were really green. Like we were trying to make sense of what was happening and not sure, but trying to forecast what we think was going to happen. I think we were all really hopeful that this thing was going to get tidied up within a few months, and we're going to go right back.
I think at that point of the show was like they were only saying it was going to take like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. We're like, we'll be back at work in May. Somebody said about
it's going to take 2 weeks.
And here we are.
I think when we look back to over the course of the year, not to put Matt, Mo, and David down in any way, but I think Ali developed in the really most skilled interviewer over this course of year.
Oh yeah.
Ali, you really developed some interview skills and research skills. How did you do it? Tell us.
I wasn't conscious of that until fans and friends who were watching would message me and say,
wait, stop 1 second. Besides your fucking technical setup, which totally overexposes you right now and completely puts you in and out of focus all the time, which is very annoying, only because you have to have.
Look how amazing that looks. What's going on here?
Fancy. What do you have the fancy camera for?
Is there a window behind the camera?
No, it might. I just have to play around with the positioning.
It doesn't matter anyways. Yeah. You look great, man.
All right. Let's go back to that thing. Ali, how did you develop all these amazing skills? I mean, over the year I became like really amazed by your skills of interviewing people, of bringing up the right talking points. And it's not only me, it's a lot of viewers of us who've noticed that too, that you really developed great skills of all that.
If you watch any talk show, like and you go back to that first few episodes, the host is trying to figure out like how to interact with the audience, both the live audience and the viewing audience, and how to develop like an interview style, how to interact with. I mean, there's 5 of us, so we have to interact with each other, and then when the guests start coming, we have to interact with them, and we all have to try to give each other time to get our questions across and everything like that. So all that takes time to develop. I mean, when listening to and watching the show episode 1 today, it was like funny how awkward and nervous I was. I mean, I was wearing a baseball cap. I never wear a baseball cap. I had like the background. I remember I froze. I had a lot of technical difficulties. I froze forever, and then I came back, and then somebody FaceTimed me, and I had more tech issues, and that threw me off completely. So after time, you just become comfortable that things like that are going to happen, unexpected things, surprise guests coming on. Sometimes I would let you guys know who was going to come on, and other times I would even surprise you all because I like the element of surprise. So there was a lot of playfulness, I think, that we, exhibited throughout the evolution of the show that helped define the show in the end and where we are now. So, but
I'll have to add, your interviewing style has really just seen it develop over the years. Incredible. You're incredibly articulate. You ask the best questions, even when I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, God damn, that was a good question. How come I didn't think of that? God damn, that was another good question. How did I think of that? It's been impressive to see that. Seriously.
Thank you. Well, I
came with him you did like research on the guests before the show, right? Like you probably.
Yeah, I think that's that. Like, I don't remember which guest it was that triggered that, but I needed to look up what they'd released on their Discogs because I wanted to ask them about certain albums or projects that resonated with a global audience and me, that were defining moments in my life that I wanted to highlight and talk about, see if there's a story there. And then that just turned into, well, you know, where's this person from? Where were they born? You know, what were they into musically from an early age? And then, you know, I started to want to explore the roots of why they chose a career in music. And all that I would just kind of collate and write down into like bullet points, you know, with the discography, so that I had like, you know, some reference points while we're talking, because we tend to go off topic all the time. If you guys notice, we go off topic and then somebody brings us back to that topic. Then we go in another tangent, you know, because there's 5 of us and everyone's got something to say. And if you wait too long before you can say it, then you might forget it. So you're trying to get it in.
True.
It was really challenging to find, I think, everyone's voice within the show and everyone's kind of like, you know, interaction style with one another and the guests. But I think we did a good job. You know, I don't know how many people, Justin, you can feel free to chime in. I don't know how many people, you know, are watching the show today, but it seems like we made somewhat of an impact. And we, you know, I can sleep good at night knowing that we put a smile on a lot of people's faces through some very dark times.
Yeah.
And
okay.
an all natural Giraldo Rivera.
And we put smiles on our own faces. I mean, we've mentioned that enough times, that it really was helpful for each one of us individually to do this show on a weekly basis through those times, because I think a lot of viewers can relate to that you, especially in those times of pandemic where you have a lot of social distancing going on and you don't get to see your friends, you don't get to party, you don't get to do the things that you used to do, that you fall into holes at times and you just like sitting at home and just like, what the fuck is happening? Where does this lead to? And this weekly show always kind of gave us a kick in the ass, like, let's be ready for that. Let's be there for each other. Let's talk to each other. Let's hang out. Let's have a beer with each other. And I think it puts smiles on our own faces as well. But I mean, I was pretty serious about this now, drinking my beer, that I would think, you know, we had so many guests on the show. We interviewed and they told their life stories. Has each one of us actually done that on this show? No, we haven't. So since Ali just started talking, Ali, could we pretend you're the guest? Could we pretend you're the guest on today's show right now?
Right now,
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I feel like we've touched on little bits and stuff, but yeah, I don't think we've ever like really interviewed each other.
Touch a little bit, because I'm curious about some things too. And Ali, we've been friends for a long time, and we know each other for a long time. But there's still some stuff that I don't know. So
yeah. So what do you want to know?
Let's get into that. I want to start. I want to start early. Of what I know, you have moved with your parents. You've basically fled Iran with your parents.
Correct.
When I mean, some of us are probably not so familiar with the history of Iran. So the Shah was still in power, but then he got ousted, and that was the moment where the religious force came in, the rebellion, right?
Basically, there was an Islamic revolution.
Tell us the story. What was your age when you left the country, and tell us where you went with your parents and what got you into music.
Well, I remember.
Explain.
I remember when I was first born. Just right after I was born, my parents took me to France, and we spent some time in France. And my mom was going to university there, so we already sort of had our sights at leaving Iran.
Stop 1 second. 1 second here. Like, when you say that, it kind of like, was your family kind of like a privileged family, a little bit more above, like, let's say, the medium average income? So your mother was already well educated in France. So you were internationally connected already?
We definitely weren't privileged. We were living in a small town called Mashhad, which was like a 4-hour drive from Tehran, which is the capital. And, you know, every Persian you meet, you ask them, you know, where they're from, and they default to saying Tehran. It's like the New York City of Iran, basically. So we were from a small town. And then, you know, after I was born, we went to France for a bit. My parents loved, and to this day, they love everything French. So they loved being there, spending time there with me after I was just born. My mom was going to university there. And then my dad decided he wanted to, you know, go to the USA and you know, study at I think he had a scholarship, which is why he decided to come to George Washington or American University here. And this was just before the revolution. So he was here, we were there. He was here under a scholarship. And then when the revolution happened, they withdrew the scholarship. And rather than go back, because the future of Iran was really uncertain during those times, it was a really dark period. He told us just to pack everything that we could and come to the States and join him here. And he didn't know what we would do, but basically we were starting a new life in America. And it was just my brother and I that came. Most of
you have an older brother?
Younger brother.
A younger brother.
Yeah, younger name. Yeah, Arash.
Arash is younger.
He's young. He's like 3 years younger.
Oh, it's funny. I always thought it's your older brother.
Yeah, so we were
so
like
much more serious.
He's more, yeah, because he actually got through college, unlike me. But yeah, we were not privileged or well off. We were middle class, from a big family. And then when we came here, it was a major reset. Like we had to start from the ground up again. And it was.
What age were you in when that happened?
I was 7. Yeah. So, yeah, and you think about fate, like sometimes.
Sorry, I'm always like interrupting, but did you learn French as well? You speaking French as well?
I spoke a little bit of French. I took some classes like in not elementary school, junior high school, but I forgot everything. But like my parents, I think they realized they didn't want to stay in Iran, and the catalyst for them leaving was the revolution. And you think about fate sometimes, like us coming here allowed me to have the career that I have today. And like if I'd ended up somewhere else, I probably would have been doing something else. So, sometimes when you're in a reflective mood, you really think about like, your own origin story. And I think that's what you're trying to get us to talk about today, Chris, right? Our origin, like the Wolverine's origin story. Our origin story. So that, in a nutshell, go ahead.
I was going to continue. I'll ask you in a second.
No, I mean, it's funny, like when somebody asks us to talk about ourselves, because for our entire career, I mean, how many times have you read an interview that was written about you and it kind of covers your basic backstory? Or like, I've always been involved with either doing it myself, or if I had a PR agency who didn't write a proper bio, I would have to rewrite it. So I was always kind of writing my own origin story. And after a while, I got kind of tired of talking about my own life.
Did you ever in your family, anybody in your family have any kind of musical skills, or were they involved with music in any way? Did you pick that up through family, or did you just discover that just being in the US and coming over here and kind of finding music on your own?
No, I mean, my dad writes poetry. He's published books on poetry. So I think I get my creative gene from him. And I remember we were talking about this the other night with some family friends. I remember like when I was really young, every week they would drag us to somebody's house, some Persian friend's house, for a big gathering. This is when my parents and other, older Persian friends that I have in this area were quite social creatures. They would really want to be together on the weekends, Friday and Saturday until, the wee hours of the morning. And there was always like a musician there that would bring like a classical instrument, Persian instrument. And a few people would sit there and recite poetry, and we'd all be half asleep, they'd turn the lights down, light some candles, and that person would play, and they would take turns reciting poetry. And that, I always found that really, really like fascinating, how they created this incredible, even though I didn't really understand what was being said, I really loved and gravitated towards the atmosphere that they created. And maybe that is like an early trigger for me of like wanting, I didn't even know at that age if I wanted a career in music, but I was really interested in it. And then, MTV came along. I think for a lot of us who are from that generation, MTV, we were glued to everything that was being shown on that channel, even the shows.
What year are we talking about? Like,
this is the 80s.
Talking
the
about
80s.
83, 82, 84?
I guess it's just, like early 80s. 84, 85.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that you say that your family would, because I had a very similar experience growing up as well, being like first generation in the US, like my family getting together and doing very similar things. That's really interesting to bring that up.
Yeah, and like because I didn't really fit in with the popular kids, I would hang out with the alternative kids, and the alternative kids were exposing me to like incredible music. And so I was, I grew up an alternative kid, discovering all this incredible music, and those were additional kind of triggers for me to want to, and also I played in bands. I remember you saying on that first episode, Mo, that you were in bands as well.
Oh yeah.
And all that, like all these things kind of started slowly coming together, all these pieces to the puzzle. And then I started DJing. Then I started to think, well, so-and-so, if they can release a record, I can release a record.
Absolutely.
And Chris is on the phone.
Guys, I'm really sorry. I have to interrupt for 1 second because I ordered some food.
Ah, yeah.
And it's just delivered right now. So keep talking. I'll listen.
So this is going to be a first. Chris is going to eat on the show for the very first time. I think I was nibbling on some snacks when I was in Barcelona, one of the episodes, and I looked at that show afterwards and I looked ridiculous. Like, yeah, it looks pretty funny when you're chewing and trying to host the show.
Like here, because like usually when we do the show, it's like lunchtime for me. So by the time we finish, which is
you're
like
dying, right? Yeah.
2 p.m., I'm like, and drinking a beer, I'm like, okay, I need to get some food. And like so many times I'm tempted to grab something and eat during the show, but I don't know. I don't want to be doing that.
Hey, Ollie,
you guys don't eat before the show, like before you start? You don't have.
I have breakfast like at like 8.
Okay.
So by the time the show, I'm not really that hungry, but then by the end, it's like, damn, it's lunchtime and I'm really hungry.
Ollie, do you still play the guitar much?
Yeah, not as often as I'd like, but I do. I love, pulling it out like when I'm stuck on a project, like, and I want to create some instant atmosphere. I think we talked about this last week with Juan McLean. And sometimes I'll sit like late at night. I'll be watching like a Pink Floyd documentary or something like that. And I'll grab my guitar and start jamming to.
Absolutely.
Or I'll watch a concert or something. Yeah.
Because I was watching like the old Deep Dish video, Flashdance, and I saw you jamming in the background. And I was like, damn, Ollie's cutting it up on the axe.
Yeah, I was like, I don't recall playing too often when I was really young. Like, I remember playing at my high school prom because we bribed the band to let us go on and play Wild Thing, and I played the drums, and we were all really wasted. But like, it was like a scene out of a John Hughes movie because like nobody there who was we were all part of the same school could believe that we got up and did that.
It was the undersea dance from Back to the Future scene, except it was you instead of.
Yeah, Yeah, we were like the nerds, and like remember the nerds in Revenge of the Nerds, and they got up and did the talent show. They did like a Devo-esque talent show. That was us, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good times. So yeah, I mean,
just to let me get that straight. So with 7, you came over to DC, right?
I came over to DC.
To Washington DC. You
Yeah.
hear me? Hello.
Well, the outskirts, like the suburbs.
You never moved anywhere else. So you started you started to go to elementary school, obviously, in DC.
Yeah.
And you've never really moved anywhere, and then you got into this music thing. But I know you're a really big fan of industrial music. What drew you into industrial music then, especially?
It was just music that I could escape into, because my world was so. There weren't a lot of like interests that I had. I wasn't interested in being a doctor or engineer or lawyer or whatever. I was trying to find my way forward, and just buying time until something came along that interested me. And I knew from an early age, music was always that thing that was interesting. And then when I started to make a little bit of money playing, DJing for house parties and school dances and stuff like that, I thought maybe DJing could be kind of a way out of this situation.
What age was that, and what brought
Probably
you into DJing?
16, just starting in house parties, and then playing school dances and just reading about people like Frankie Bones, who we interviewed recently. And then, like the other piece to that puzzle is like meeting BT in junior high school. He was the guy that had the most insane equipment and was classically trained, was a total genius. And we became fast friends. And then I connected with John Selway. I can't remember actually how I met John Selway, who went on to make a lot of like really great techno records, but we started together. John is from Virginia. John introduced Christian and I together, Christian Smith, and helped us record the first few releases on Deep Dish. And, I naturally, I guess, met certain people along my path who I worked with, and we both kind of found our way forward through that era, that early era of not really sure if we wanted a career in music, but what we were doing was resonating with us. And once we started to release it, it started to resonate with others, and everything kind of organically happened. Nothing was forced, and there was no like overnight. There wasn't like, I didn't go from not producing anything to producing one song with a ghost producer, and that catapulted me to flying around in private jets and blinging it every weekend and having a full diary overnight, which can happen now very easily. It was like a very slow, it was a slow burn, Chris.
Well, tell us about that history that got you into Deep Dish and how you meet Sharon and all the Deep Dish thing. I'm really curious. Actually, funny thing is, Ali, we've never really talked about this. I'm curious.
I feel like I've talked about it my whole life, but
seriously, you've never talked about it.
I'm
with
trying
me.
to find.
I'm not sure if you talked about it with David or Mo.
We were introduced through a mutual friend. Sharam was living in Virginia and going to school in Virginia through a mutual family friend who was promoting parties. And Sharam was playing out, but he was playing like more Euro dance. And I was playing out, and my friend knew the style I had, and he thought it would be interesting to have us play together and create like a duo situation. So I went to guest on Sharam's night, which is now Banana Republic. It's in an area called Georgetown in Washington, D.C. And
can you give us a year?
I remember this. Well, I don't remember. Maybe 1989. 1988,
Wow,
89.
so early.
Yeah. And I remember starting, I went on and I played West Spam's Alarm Clock. I'll never forget playing that record. And I cleared, I cleared the entire floor, right? And Sharam flipped out.
Stop right now. Hold on. Hold your thought.
Yeah.
Hold your thought. I'm going to tell you that later when I'm on, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm in Berlin right now.
Yeah.
And I was literally have a meeting at 5 in Linienstraße, and I was standing on the street, and West Spam is walking by.
Get out of here. You're kidding me.
No, seriously. I'm totally serious. And I know Max. I know him really well. But I haven't seen him for like, I think maybe 4 or 5 years. So I'm standing on the street randomly, and then West Spam is walking by with a girl, and I'm like, Max, hey. And he's just looking at me like,
oh, he didn't recognize
he's just like, hi. And he just keeps walking, and I'm just like, Max, you don't know who I am? You don't remember me? Max, hello? And he looks at me like,
yeah.
He's probably like, shh, my name's not Max. Blowing my cover.
And he was probably like some weird fan is yelling his name, which I am. I'm a fan of his. Max, like I remember.
Wait, were you
like,
wearing your beanie? Were you wearing your little hat or no?
I was looking like I'm looking right now. I'm just literally not looking any different. Yeah. And I'm looking at him as like Max, and I'm a fan. I have to say I'm a fan. His early works of West Spam, you guys don't know, like Monkey Say, Monkey Do. He had an album out in the late 80s, 89, I think, or early 90s, which was mind-blowing. Yeah. And he was looking at me as like, Max. And I have to tell you one thing. I had the meeting with Daniel Miller at 5 on the street because we were just going for a walk. And I was standing there, and I'm looking at Max, and I'm like, Max, you don't remember me? Hey, Max. And he's like, oh my God, Chris, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm just like, I'm just waiting for a friend to come down of this building. And in the same moment, Daniel is opening the door. Oh. And then Max turns around. So I'm waiting for this guy. And Max looks at him like, who are you? I know you. Who are you? And it's like, it's Daniel. Daniel. Max, I have to tell you, for all out there, you're watching, Max West Spam is like an incredible cult DJ, a cult figure in German music, techno music. But just like me, sometimes he's a little slow and just realizing things. And it was a really funny situation, which just essentially just happened 5 hours earlier. And then since you mentioned Max or West Spam just now, I thought it just like I had to mention that I just literally just met him on the street here in Berlin in a second. So it's that's funny, West Spam.
I actually
continue.
I actually have this song in my iTunes, and I labeled it Classic Rave, but I don't think it can be classified as a rave track.
Sounds like Big Beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty dope. Anyway, that's cool. The song I played. Cleared the floor.
Wow.
And so our relationship, Sharam and I, it was, interesting and rocky and strained, but always explosive in its creativity from the get-go. Everything kind of.
But I mean, isn't Sharam also Iranian?
Yeah, he's Persian as well, but he came later. I came before him. I think he came in like.
So that was a completely coincidence that you're both Persian?
Well, I mean, we had the mutual acquaintance, but yeah. If I understand the question correctly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Persians running around in the same circles, man.
Yeah.
It happens.
Persians. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go on together. From that then.
It's funny because in LA I have a lot of Persian friends, and I feel like even though I know them from completely different backgrounds, somehow they're all connected some way. Like they all know each other somehow.
Yeah. But I mean, Mo, you were born in the States, right?
I was born in the U.S. Yeah, first generation here though, because both my parents immigrated here to Cali.
And from Egypt, right? Or no?
My mom came here from Cairo, Egypt, and my father came from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Wow, what a mix.
Disco.
Yeah, from Jalisco.
That's where
So
my mom's from.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
My mom.
we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Your turn is later. We're still with Ali. I'm still.
Okay, go for it, man. I'm following his thing. Ollie's trying to deflect on me.
This was
So where are
this
you
was
from,
my
man?
this was my
I have the
expert
feeling Ali doesn't want to talk about it.
well, this is my expert interview style, using, what we were talking about as a jumping
Little
off point.
antidotes. Little
To go,
antidotes.
yes.
Okay, drop that for a while. You're the guest now, Ali.
Okay.
Ali, actually, I have a question. When you first started getting into music,
Yeah.
like what was like the first music that you liked, like at the youngest age you can think of?
I mean, I liked pop. I liked what was being played on pop radio. And then I remember really gravitating towards like new wave, like Ultravox, Depeche Mode, OMD, The Cure, Bauhaus. Because I was hanging out with all these alternative kids. So it was like 80s pop radio. And then I started to discover the other stuff through the people I was hanging out with. And that became more interesting. But I was just scratching the surface. And then I tried to, I would spend hours and hours and hours in record stores. The owner would, the people working there would see me coming in all the time and start handing me stuff to check out. They were seeing what I was buying, what my buying habits were. And
that was a store in DC?
Yeah. Yeah. Where?
What was
it? Yeah, was it in DC?
It was multiple stores. Like there was one that was specializing like in electronic music, dance music. There was another one that was like all about alternative and like reggae. So you would go to different places seeking out different sounds. And I was just like taking it all in, and I was quite eclectic. Once I started DJing locally, I was playing everything. I would play soul, jazz, hip hop, R&B, techno, like industrial, new wave, everything in the span of a night. Right now, and looking back, I don't know how I weaved all that together. This is all before like you were able to do like, Ableton re-edits, warp marking, beat gridding, everything, getting the timing perfect and doing, putting in intros and outros on everything. So it was like a weird blend of all this stuff. And, I think I'm still that kid today in the kind of stuff I gravitate towards.
And so then you met Sharam over mutual friends. And how did you come up with the idea to team up, and how was the name Deep Dish created? And what was your goal? What was your goal, to become like the Grammy-nominated super duo that you then became? Like, what was?
I don't think that's anyone's goal when they start out. We just wanted to have records out, and we weren't sure whether we were any good. Just like anybody that starts out, you think you are. And when you get positive reinforcement from people in the industry, that makes you feel like there's something there to be explored. And so that, all those early records, that was us trying to explore our creativity. We were trying to find our voice. We weren't sure musically what we stood for, but we loved like house music and deep house music. We loved the European stuff, the more underground stuff we were listening to. We also had this pop sensibility because of, the fact that we were fans of like Masters of Work, Todd Terry, Frankie Knuckles, David Morales, all these people that were remixing. We talked about this, I think, last week as well. Like they were remixing pop artists, but doing super underground dubs. So maybe that's where that crossover sound and sensibility originated from, trying to be balanced, but I found myself rebelling against that more and more as time went on. I wanted to be more extreme in this direction or that direction. Where in the beginning, yeah.
What was your first DJ alias like before you ever released anything? Did you have one?
I was Dubfire Sound System.
Oh, really? Since
Yeah.
Dubfire. Wow.
Go ahead.
Yeah, your rebellious attitude, do you think that comes from listening to a lot of like sort of rebellious industrial before?
Yes, definitely industrial and punk music. Yeah.
And the dynamic between you and Sharon then, and again, how did you come up with the name Deep Dish? That's another thing. But the dynamic between you and Sharon then, was it like Sharon was more on the poppy side and you were trying to be a little bit more rebellious, and that combined to something really special then?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't sure if our dynamic was going to work. The Deep Dish name, as I've said in countless interviews and bios.
Did you? I haven't heard that yet.
Came from our love of Domino's deep dish pan pizza, which we would always order in the studio.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
I was about to make a joke about if it had anything to do with pizza, but I was just being cheeky.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome that it does.
Yeah, and I worked when I was like, I think, when Sharam and I were first started, trying to make music, I was working in a pizza place called Armand's for like 5 years. So, and now I'm baking pizza over the last year. So it all comes back to pizza. I don't know what, but yeah, I mean, we thought it would be interesting. It was an interesting play on words, like deep dish, deep house. I was imagining, record reviews of ours saying, "Oh, here's a slice of new deep," like all the wordplay that can go into deep house and deep dish.
I don't know. I don't understand why. Even from the very first time I heard the name Deep Dish many years ago, the first thing that popped in my head was a satellite dish. I never thought pizza first. I always pictured like a satellite dish, like one of those old, cable TV ones that are deep. Yeah. I don't know. I never thought pizza. That's interesting.
Hey, you guys notice my camera is better now?
Yeah.
I didn't do anything either. I don't know what happened.
I guess you don't. If you move, it probably will.
Yeah, I think I'm in the perfect position, so I got to stay right here.
Stay right there.
I can't move. Yeah, because you notice like it's there's less. I think it's the overcompensation of the lack of light or something in the foreground or background that makes it do that.
Hey Ali, did
you? Great that after 1 year we still have these technical issues.
This feels like a Reddit Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
It is.
I was gonna say, did you ever release records on your own before Deep Dish, or was Deep Dish your first, that was when you were first putting out music?
No, all I did was scratch on this record that was released by the guys that were doing the weekly night that I was the resident of. Okay. Who later became one of the guys later was the founders of Thievery Corporation. Oh. So that was when they released that record. I was their resident DJ 2 nights a week for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And when they released that, I was like, shit, these guys released, a record. Maybe I can do it too. And I also met Sharam around that time, and we started to get serious about doing it. And I think my mom funded the first pressing.
Oh, wow.
And that sold out. And we asked her for more money. for a bigger second pressing, and she kind of funded the first. Even though she wasn't really condoning and giving her seal of approval in this direction I was going in. She thought it was just a passing fad or hobby that I was into. And there was a lot of maybe we talked about it on previous shows. There was a lot of disagreements that I had with my parents about choosing a career in music. They didn't think it was the right thing. But it wasn't until we started to make serious money, like remixing people like Janet Jackson and stuff like that I was able to quit my day job.
And what year was that?
God, I don't know. Let me Discogs it.
And when you in the beginning, how did you
I think it was like 95, 96, around that time where things started to really explode. You know?
In the beginning, when you were making music, did you just learn as you went with studio gear and all that stuff, or how did that come along?
Yeah, I was, really tight with Brian. We did some talent shows together. He taught me a lot about, sequencers and drum machines and synths. I couldn't afford any of that, so I didn't own anything. I would just hang out with him at his house and just learn that way.
Brian BT.
Brian BT Transo,
right?
yeah, who still lives in this area.
Yeah.
He was living in LA for a while, and then he moved back to this area, and he's a total genius when it comes to gear. And then there was John Selway. I can't remember how we were introduced. Maybe it was another mutual friend situation. Then I started working with John Selway, brought Sharam in, and then we started to work a lot together, sometimes with BT. Then I think John was moving to New York. So then we started to work with local engineers, but these engineers weren't doing dance music. They were just like recording bands. So they didn't know anything about dance music. But we were going in and trying to make dance records at these recording studios that were for bands, which
That's
was
what
why
saying, like, you had to rent like studio space and all that stuff and use the gear.
Yeah, we did that. And then in working on stuff here that was resonating globally, we started to get, bigger budgets, bigger projects coming our way. And our dream was to record in the studios of our heroes in New York, the Masters of Works and Todd Terry's and stuff like that, with their engineers, Steve Barkin. I can't remember some of the other guys, but there was Rob Reeves, who was working at Francois Kevorkian's Access Studios at the time. But Steve Barkin was someone that we got on with really well, and he was doing a lot of mix downs and engineering work for all these guys. And we started to go to New York every time we got like a remix offer. We would do all the, the basic tracking and arrangement down here, and then go to New York. He would bring it all up on an SSL board, smoke a ton of weed and start mixing. And he would just tell us to go chill in the other room and then come back in like 5 hours and let him know what we thought. And so we learned, we learned at every stage of that journey how different engineers like work. Everybody has their own kind of method in the studio. So I picked up all this stuff, and then I also had the studio in my house. And then when Matt Nordstrom, who's my current engineer, came along, he came from a live music background as well. I passed all my knowledge on to him. I learned a lot from him. And then, to this day, we have this perfect kind of symbiotic working relationship where, he's able to articulate my vision, and if he can't, like, we work on it until it takes shape, Yeah.
Which you can hear on these amazing productions like Roadkill.
Yeah.
Your Spastic remix, just to name a few.
Yeah.
So you had really a lot of success with Deep Dish. How was it, and what was the stage when you got Grammy nominated for that? How was that? It's like Grammy nomination is always like probably a really big thing, isn't it?
I mean, at the time, of course, you're thinking it's a big deal, and everybody around you is telling you that it's a big deal. But I think for a brief period, about 2-3 years, we were heading the DC chapter. Every city has their own local chapter that receives the material and submits, the votes, and then all the votes get tallied. Once we got into all that, we started to see how kind of, flawed their system is. And we raised our concerns with them, and they didn't really listen to it. They acknowledged that it's flawed, which is I think why like there's such a controversy around the Grammy Awards to this day. And it just, it was great for the family. It was a great achievement, nice pat on the back, good bucket list check. But you quickly realize that, okay, it's a moment in your, in your timeline. And, once that's done, then you set your sights on other things, I was always about like the new, like, okay, that's fine. Okay,
Next
great.
step.
Thank you. Let's have a party, celebrate, drink. Next day, hangover. Okay, what's next? It was that constant.
What year was that, the Grammy nomination?
I think like 2003. Yeah.
That early?
Yeah, a long time ago. 2002, 2003.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Deep Dish kind of carried on for quite a while. And what was Ali? I hope you can see.
I feel like I'm being psychoanalyzed.
Ali, I hope you see that I'm trying to kind of pretend a little bit I have your interview skills.
Yeah, I see. You're doing a good job.
So how would you frame the next question? It's like, once Deep Dish got at a peak, where did you realize you want to do a solo career out of it? Which was around 2007, was it?
Yeah, like 2004. When did I reach out to you? And how did I reach out to you?
I don't know. I don't remember. Just 2007. I was starstruck.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was totally starstruck. I remember I told everyone, like, this guy from Deep Dish just contacted me. He's just like, he likes my music. What the fuck? Does he even know me?
Yeah, which is funny. It's like I could have not reached out to you, right? And we wouldn't have the relationship that we would have today. We wouldn't be sitting here on the show together, on the same token that if I didn't reach out, on MySpace, if I didn't message Oliver Huntman, we wouldn't have all these, songs that we made together that everyone loves. So there's a lot to be said about, like, just checking your ego, and whatever compels you to do something, to act on that.
Could it be possible it was a fax machine that you contacted me?
It could be possible, but I think
it could be. I remember something with a fax, even
something with a fax. Maybe that was like, I don't know, a DJ feedback sheet.
Wait, when did you two guys get in contact with each other? Maybe I missed.
I don't remember.
I'm not sure which release.
No, it was. You know what it was?
Which number it was? It was Bang Bop, and Pucklepock. It was a double track release that I did on CLR, and I somehow sent you this before it was released, and you were like, "Oh, this is great! I would love to release it on my label." Was that the case?
No, I think it was. And I remember we talked about this on the show on episode 1, which I listened to today. It was, I think I was doing a compilation. I wanted to license it. Or I wanted to make sure that you would clear the license for the label.
Okay, yeah.
It was funny back then when you did compilations, the label, like, you would submit. I hated doing that. Like, you would submit all these songs. You didn't want to do the mix in case something didn't get clearance, in which case you had to go and redo the whole, and that happened all the time. So sometimes we would do the mix, and sometimes thinking like we would get everything cleared, the label would get everything cleared. And other times they would come back and be like, well, we're not getting anywhere with this person, either the label or the artist. Maybe you can reach out. And I think I just reached out. And
yeah, it must have been around 2007, I believe it was.
Oh yeah, 2000. Earlier than that, maybe.
Maybe 5 or 6. I have to look at Discogs as well. When Bang Bop came out, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can anybody watching look at this right now? I'm eating.
And quick question. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted. When you were doing the Deep Dish thing, were you also DJing as Dubfire, like, separately, or did that come back again later on? Even though you had that name since the early days.
We were trying. We instructed our agent to set the stage for our eventual breakup.
Solo careers.
And solo, to establish the solo careers, like, while we were still in Deep Dish, by, like, making sure that the flyers, and it was always an issue because the promoters would either, most of the time they would do it right, but a few times they would totally fuck it up. Making sure, like, under Deep Dish, they put me and Sharam's solo names. And then when we went solo, all the promoters wanted to continue using, like, capitalizing on the Deep Dish name,
Right.
because our individual names, and we were dead set against that. You know, our individual names weren't as established yet. So that was another period of, you know, difficulty and kind of not escaping, but like, you know, evolving out of Deep Dish and into something else.
Right.
That where you try to maintain a certain baseline level of, you know, success and pedigree, I guess, from your, you know, having achieved whatever you did in that past career.
Was
So
it hard?
It was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole period was really hard. I remember, like, one of the reasons, and then maybe later I contacted you, Chris, when we were splitting, and I said, look, this is what's happening, and I'm really not sure, and I'm not getting a lot of feedback and support from people, and you were kind of easygoing and very relaxed and no ego, and kind of helped me.
Oh, I was just really
regain
successful in hiding my ego.
Yeah.
And how
there
long
was, because like when something that you've been involved in forever is imploding, and at the same time you're trying to navigate out of that, but also establish your own identity, singular identity. It was like a double sided kind of coin that was very difficult to you know, manage. So
I could relate to that feeling. Obviously, probably not nearly as big of a level as Deep Dish, but certainly that's an incredibly difficult thing to go through.
Yeah. So, I mean, there was a lot of, I remember, like, I was just talking about it with Arash the other day. There's a lot of times where, just like now during the last year, you know, there were some dark days where I just couldn't get out of bed because I wasn't sure what I would face. I didn't want to face the day. And there was a lot of dark times during that period.
Like literally existential fears.
Yeah, like you just didn't want to check your email. You didn't want to engage with anybody about anything to do with Deep Dish. You know, it's a you know, it was.
Mo, did you feel the same way with cell injection or what?
No, definitely not with cell inject, but like when I lost my label Droid and I had the huge, you know, fallout with my partner, that was an incredibly difficult time that I still struggle with till today. You know, I've lost a part of my identity in something that I was involved with for such a great period of time, and then start something new and find your own identity and find your own path to where things are going to go forward. It's a difficult transition to go through.
Are you guys still friends with
Actually not. Yeah, we haven't spoken in years, so yeah, you know, things happen.
Wow.
But like, Ali, how long did it take to like shake the Deep Dish away? Like, was it years? Was it pretty quick?
I remember, like, when I saw videos of Rich playing. Yeah, I sent Rich like Roadkill, and I was also friends with like people like Tiesto and all these other guys. So I sent all these people the new music. Roadkill, the first release, ended up coming out on Armin van Buuren's label, which is funny. Which to me, it wasn't really a trance record, but it was a crossover record. So I would see videos of Rich and a lot of underground DJs playing it, and the Tiestos were telling me, "Oh my God, this track is amazing," and the Swedish House Mafias. And so I knew, I was like, all right, well, I don't know if I want to do this again, like what I did with Deep Dish, which is that balance between underground and commercial. Nobody sets out to make you know, I don't sit down and say, I'm going to make a top 10 commercial hit. It's just like what comes out, you know,
just happens.
And what came out initially started to cross over. And I was like, wow, maybe like what we achieved as Deep Dish, you know, gave me the kind of, I don't know, I guess that starting point to be able to do it in the same way for my solo career.
Did you have a pretty clear picture when you started your solo career of exactly
I had
what
zero.
the next steps are?
I had zero
Like,
picture.
what do I need to do? What is happening?
I had zero picture. Like, it was really cloudy. I wasn't sure musically what I wanted to represent at all. I knew I had ideas that I couldn't realize within the confines of Deep Dish. And then it took like some pills and some time on the dance floor at DC-10, listening to Loco Dice and a bunch of other DJs, that I had this moment of clarity. And it's funny because I didn't mention this last week when Juan was talking about psychedelics and how, you know, they can really stimulate the mind in creative ways. And I think for me, that was, you know, for better or worse, that was how it was. You know, it was pills on the dance floor, listening to loud music with a lot of other people, feeling it in the same way, that gave me like the clarity that I needed to move forward. Yeah. That's when I knew. I came back and I told Matt, I'm like, I know exactly what we need to do. And then it was just like we were making one after another, you know? Yeah.
Did Chris freeze?
No, Chris, I've noticed
Right.
has this amazing ability. Like, is it a chameleon that can kind of like and frozen, and then you're watching him, and then maybe like one eye would go like that, you know, like. And
you
then,
totally tuned out for a minute there, Chris. You were gone.
No, I think he's like freezing a little bit here and there.
Chris, are you
No,
eating?
no,
yet?
I'm back.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah.
No, I'm still eating. Yeah. Am I back? Do you guys hear me?
What did you get?
Here?
What'd you get,
Am I
Chris?
here? I got Indian. I got Indian.
I haven't had Indian food since I was in India.
But rib cage, right? That was what you released then on Loco Dice's label as the first vinyl.
Correct. First release on Desolate was Ribcage, yeah.
Exactly. It was only vinyl only on Desolate, right? It was the was the first Desolate record, right?
Which is funny because when I first went solo, I had all this rejection, right? And that's what forced me to start my own label, because I got tired of like shopping stuff. I felt like at that point in my career, why should I shop anything? Because Deep Dish, being in Deep Dish, and like we kind of walked away from everything when it was like at the peak, that brought a lot of baggage into what I wanted to do as a solo artist. So I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously, you know, in this other thing that I wanted to do. So I started that forced me to start the label. And yeah, those early releases, like with Armin signing Roadkill, with Dice making that the first release on his new label with Martin Butchik, that was like a big deal for me. And
well, I remember that because you actually showed me Ribcage before it was signed to Dice's label.
Yeah,
and I was actually I remember you sent it to me before it was signed. And I mean, for those of you out there watching and you don't know about the track Ribcage, definitely go and listen to it, because it was an absolute groundbreaking track, because it was literally, I think it's 11 minutes, something.
Yeah, it's quite long.
Wow. I know this.
It's really long, but the trick of the track was, and you brought a whole new thing in the whole game, was that it was a two-part track in a way. It was starting out as something completely one thing, and then it slightly turned into like into something completely mind-twisting other thing. And when I heard that for the first time, especially also obviously the production quality was just totally out there.
Yeah.
And I remember you sent me the track before it was signed to Desolate, but I find it funny that what you're saying is like you're standing on the dance floor of DC-10 listening to Loco Dice, trying to sort of reset your mind in a way of how to go forward and what do you actually want to do musically, and then coming up with a track like Ribcage. And it's just a funny twist that in the end ended up as the first release of Loco Dice's label, which he still runs today, Desolate. Like it's all like, wow, this is like pretty heavy stuff. So how did you get the idea for Ribcage? If we can get into that, like just a little bit. And I just want to really tell people, just if you're done with the show, or you're bored watching us and talking to each other, then just rather go and go on Spotify, Apple Music, and just find Ribcage and listen to it.
Chris, I don't know. I mean, it's like we turn the machines on and we dick around and something clicks, and it's about being able to identify that thing that clicks and zeroing in on that and exploring that further. That really determines, the true creative person. Like, I mean, everybody can turn machines on and make beats and patterns and things like that, but very few people can really, like, explore it to a certain degree that it becomes something more than the sum of its parts. It becomes something organic, something that resonates with everyone that listens to it. And that's the feeling that I'm always trying to capture. And sometimes, like in the studio, I'll finish something, but it doesn't give me that feeling. It's done. You play for a few people, and sometimes I send you stuff and you listen to it. You're like, yeah, it's great, but like, it just, there's something missing. And that something missing is that thing that we're all trying to find, which is very difficult to articulate, but like, it's more than just like loops and these hooky patterns. It's like, it's something more that is very, very difficult, but it when you hear it, and it when you strike gold and you're able to I don't know, like, make it the basis and the foundation of whatever it is you're working on.
But like, it's kind of sticking to that subject, like, for everyone here, how often does it happen where you make a track where you finish it and you're like, yeah, it's cool, you're not 100% sure, and then you send it to people and everyone's like, wow, this is great, but it's still missing that little something that where you're kind of like, I know it's done, but it's still like something is not there. And how often does it happen? And do you ever still release something because everyone else likes it and you're kind of like, it's still missing something?
Yeah, I really got to like it. And sometimes you sit on, if it's an original, and you have no need to get it out, then you sit on it and maybe it makes sense to you 6 months from then or a year from then. I signed this thing that you're remixing, thank you, by the way, to Denson Pika's label. It's coming out in July. And that was something I did, just working on something else in the studio, went off on a tangent and ended up with that. And the guys, and I just sat on it. I wasn't sure about it. I didn't even send it to too many people. And then the guys asked me if I had anything, and I sent that to them, or sent a bunch of things, and they were like, oh my God, this is amazing, we want it. I'm like, really? So, and then I listened to it again because we were talking about it, and I'm like, well, it's not that bad, actually. It's okay.
Yeah, it kind of grows on you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of times like the mood that you're in, that you're producing it, that the feeling that you have with it, and you're very subjective with it. And sometimes you need someone else to tell you the truth about it. You sometimes think it's missing something, which it doesn't, and then the other way around. So I think it's just music. That's the beauty of it. You're never really sure. But Ali, I'm sorry if I get back to this and I grill you on that, but the moment you went solo, it was just such a seriously impactful moment in our techno scene, to be honest, because there was this guy coming from Deep Dish, like really successful, Grammy nominated, let's say kind of commercial kind of music, but he's coming in like a wrecking ball with all these insanely amazing productions. So how do you remember that time when you did all these productions, like I would say like Ribcage, for example, Roadkill. I remember very well the remix you did for Meet Katie.
Yeah.
It was something that I was just playing up and down. You remix for Spastic, and I could name loads more. so I mean, the transition that you did from this coming into your solo career, I think nobody could have planned that out any better. It was really extremely impactful. You had the support of sort of everyone in the techno scene in that moment, especially Richie.
Yeah.
Did that all come to as a surprise for you, or did you some sort of way know what you were doing at that moment?
I to be honest with you, I didn't, and I thought I would. I remember when I remixed Spastic, there was a lot of purists that were like, "What the fuck is
Really?
How dare me remix such a classic?"
I'll say it from my end, just if I can butt in for a second. Maybe I'm being too bold to call myself one of those purists who would be incredibly doubtful to hear something like that. And when someone told me that you had remixed the track, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I listened to it, and then there was just no doubt that it was fucking good. And there was just you couldn't talk shit because it was like, well,
that's what ended up happening. Yeah.
The dude killed it. What can you say? I mean,
but the one thing I was conscious of was that I couldn't just rest on that achievement or Ribcage or Roadkill, whatever like that. Like I had to be relentless, and I had to use fear of failure as a driver, and as a motivator, fear of rejection, all those things that they were getting processed in the studio, and the releases that came out, the remix of the original productions, they were all fueled by all that negative, all those negative forces that were wanting this journey that I was embarking on to fail. So for me, failure was never an option. There was no plan B. It was like, all right, after Ibiza, I know what I want to do. And it's going to take a lot of fucking sleepless nights and not seeing your family and friends and your girlfriend leaving you. All those sacrifices that we all have made to get to where we are today. It took that. And some people are prepared to take that leap and others aren't. They got one foot in and one foot out. And some find a good balance. They have a good support network and stuff that give them that become the driver for them. But that was the driver for me, like fear of rejection and failure. Like, not only proving it to myself, but like the techno community and also to Sharam. So it was like, there was a lot at play. Are we done talking about me?
One more.
I mean, we got 30 minutes left. We might as well finish off the Dubfire interview.
Oh, God. Okay, good. I'm off the hook. This one.
We're 30 minutes left at the Dubfire. I would agree. The next one is drum cell. What were your last question, Ali? And then you're done. What was your biggest obstacles? I'm really trying to impersonate you right now, in an interview style. What were your biggest obstacles then as you started your solo career? And would you still think that you sometimes have kind of like a little bit of criticism when it comes to like, oh yeah, he's this commercial guy, and he's this guy who was a deep dish. Is the techno purity police circle still as active as it used to be?
Well, of course. I mean, they're all still there, and but you can't let that negativity dictate your life. Does it bother me? Sometimes, yeah. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. But I like I said before, I use that as a driver. So I've always said success is the best revenge. If I'm, and especially now where I am in my career, I'm quite confident in my past achievements. I'm still trying to find new ways of expressing myself creatively through sound. I think we all are. We're trying to make sure we're still interested in what we're doing for a living, and others are interested. And not only that, others are inspired by it to keep what we started going for future generations, for the current and future generations. So there's a lot of those feelings that I have right now. Like, I work on projects that I want to work with for people that I like, with very loose deadlines, and very little, like creative direction. It's just like, all right, well, I like you and I like this, so let me try it and see what happens. Same way I approached David to do the mix. I'm like, look, this is the track. Here are the parts. If you're feeling it, I'd love to have you do it. If you're not, dude, tell me, because I understand, like.
And that's what I told you when I was like, let me throw it into Ableton and let me mess around. If something comes out that I can work with, then okay, let's do it. But I'm not going to promise anything.
Yeah.
And then within the first couple hours, I was like, oh yeah, this sounds kind of cool. But I still haven't finished it yet. But
no, that's fine.
The idea is already there, so at least there's that.
But that's such a beautiful thing to make something, and then you give the parts to somebody, and then you're waiting. You're waiting in the wings. Like, what are they going to zero in on? Mm-hmm. What are they going to amplify or change that I didn't see? What are they going to see in this, in my creation, that I didn't see in my creation? And that's the most exciting part for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's I think for anybody. I mean, Chris, you just released your the Radio Slave, and you did some club mixes. The third installment in your Burn Slow remix package. What was that whole journey? This is my interview style, flipping it around. Chris, what was that journey like for you? Compiling, you're in bed with Mute, you're having regular conversations with the legendary Daniel Miller. He's
only interrupted by Westbam.
Yeah, he's released your album, and you're having to make these decisions about who you want to approach. And instinctively that anyone you ask is going to be on board, because this project is for Mute and for you, because you have your reputation, Mute has its reputation, Daniel's involved. So where do you begin? Like, how do you begin by choosing who's going to reinterpret your work? With me, it was easy. Like, you just played it to me in the car, and I'm like, oh, I want to do that one.
That's a pretty loaded question that could be asked to any one of us here. Like, who do you choose to remix your tracks?
Well, why don't we just make it more general? Like, how do you guys cope with that? Like, do you enjoy people? I think there's been some artists that will never allow anyone to remix their work. There has to be, I'm sure. I remember reading about them over my career and thinking, oh, that's pretty cool, that stance that they're taking. But how do you guys feel about others reinterpreting your work? And have you ever had somebody remix you that you respected, but they did a really shit remix and you weren't sure like what to say, if anything?
Oh man. Should we say that one out loud?
Well, you don't have to name names. You can just say yes or no.
I can't say. I could say personally, there's not a remix that I've gotten that I hated, but I was a little disappointed, like a couple of times. But I'm not
from somebody you thought you were going to get something, mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't even have to be mind blowing. It's just going to be like, hey man, do your thing, and then you get the remix back, and it's like very lazy. It's like, okay, but I'm not the one that's going to be like, can you redo this? Like, I don't want to do that, because that's the direction they wanted to go.
So do you think that they were 100% happy with what they sent you, or do you think they were like, fuck man, the deadline's here and I've done this twice already, and that's the best I got, dude?
Honestly, that's how I feel. Like, I feel like they were just, actually, the thing is, I never give deadlines. It's always like, hey dude, here, do this. You can, whenever you can do it, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I feel like they just send it and they're just like, all right, here it is. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, can you do another one? I don't know. It feels like it's a lot to ask. And like, yeah, I just
Well, you know, on an interesting tip, like not long ago, obviously we've talked about this plenty of times in the past, being incredibly inspired by early industrial music, and I'm a huge fan and hold a tremendous amount of respect for Throbbing Gristle.
Yeah.
And when
25
I what
jazz funk greats.
oh
Yeah.
wow.
I love that. I
Love
love
that
the cover
album.
of that album.
Yeah. Sorry, Mo.
So it was I with the last album that I had done on Raster, we had reached out. Raster had asked me who I wanted to get to remix one of our tracks, and I had mentioned it'd be interesting to get something from Throbbing Gristle from Chris and Cozy,
Yeah.
and it was a wild reach. I never ever thought they would ever do it. And when they asked them, they were like, "Dude, we heard the album and we're a huge fan, and we would love to do the remix." So they agreed to do it, and they sent me the remix. And you know, you put so much emphasis on like these people are like your heroes or the people who inspired you. They've changed music, and what they sent over, I'm not saying was bad at all, but it certainly was nothing that I was expecting it to be, and almost to an extent that you kind of felt like maybe they made something that was hoping to aim to please you instead of maybe doing something that was 100% them. And I feel shitty saying this about Chris and Cozy like in a public space, but it was an interesting take on the track. It will be released soon, but it was something that took me back because it sounded more like Chris and Cozy trying to do a techno record more than it sounded like, you know, what I was expecting Throbbing Gristle to do with my music, you know.
But did you want them to sound like them in like the early 80s, or did you want like what if they're, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if they're just trying to be more modern instead of doing what they've
That's
done?
absolutely a good point, without a doubt.
See, that's the danger of asking people like that from that generation. Because you have all these fond memories and they're with you forever. And you think like that's a time capsule that kind of you carry with you everywhere. And you ask them to do something and then you expect that. And they've I mean, it's been decades and decades. They've evolved from
completely different people. Yeah.
Like, we don't want to do that. We've been doing that shit for 30 years. I don't want to make that industrial noise anymore.
I mean, for those who don't know, Throbbing Gristle is considered to be like the origin of industrial music, you could say, right? Yeah. And it's Chris Carter and Cozy Fantutti. Mm-hmm. And Chris Carter did a remix for me. Did you guys know that actually?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that? Chris Carter remixed Polished Chrome of my last album, which features actually Gary Newman as a vocalist, which still, when I think about it, it's like, what the fuck happened?
Did you meet Gary Newman or no? Did you ever?
I not only met Gary Newman, the first time I actually met Gary Newman, I introduced him to Daniel Miller.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Like,
I thought they would know each other. That's
I was completely under the same impression. But
did you ask why don't you guys didn't you meet in those early days? Because Gary's album, like that first album.
It was 2 years ago at ADE in Amsterdam, and I had a dinner with Daniel. Just the two of us had a quick dinner together, and Gary Newman was having a concert at what's that famous location in Amsterdam again?
Paradiso?
I just can't remember it right now. Paradiso, right? So he had a concert at Paradiso, and Ade Fenton is his manager and producer. I'm sure you all know Ade, right?
Techno producer, yeah.
He used to run the label Advanced Audio, which was also distributed by Prime Distribution in the late 90s. And that's when I still remember Ade from. And that's why when I contacted Ade, when I did the Burn Slow album for Mute, and I was like, "Hey, you're the manager and producer of Gary Numan. I have these lyrics here, and I have this track. Could Gary Numan do these vocals for me?" And he was like, "I can try and ask him." And he asked him, and he was like, "Oh, he really likes the lyrics that you wrote, and he's going to perform them for your record." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" All right, so in that moment, I had Gary Numan on my record, which was completely mind blowing for me, because Gary Numan was like. But I'm sure we have some young viewers who absolutely have no idea what we're talking about. So I just tell you, just Google it.
Well, yeah, listen to that first album, because that album is, to this day, is just mind blowing.
Pleasure Principle.
Pleasure Principle.
The Pleasure Principle you're talking about. Yeah, it's just mind blowing. I mean, it
sounds like it'd be the name of like a Rick James album.
Yeah, I mean, just to tell you, it's a huge inspiration for Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails and for so many other people. And in the late 70s, Gary Numan was kind of the first one who took a Moog synthesizer and took the bass into his productions, and it just changed the music world forever. And Gary's quite a funny character. I never met him before, and so 2 years ago, I had dinner with Daniel in Amsterdam in a small restaurant, and we just had a quick dinner together. And I told him, like, dude, I want to go back to Paradiso because Eight just texted me, like, Gary's at this concert, and if I want to come backstage and I want to maybe say hi to Gary, I should just text him. The dinner with Daniel took a little longer, and I told Daniel, what's your plan? I don't have a plan. And so I texted Aid, like, I'm here with Daniel. Are you still at the concert? And he's like, the concert is over, but we're sitting back, like we're sitting in the tour bus. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, cool, we'll go to the tour bus. I'm like, Daniel, would you want to come with me? Or we'll just go and say hi to Gary Numan. And he's looking at me, he's like, oh, that would be cool. I've never met Gary Numan. And it's just like, what? Yeah. Like, how is that even possible? It's like Daniel Miller, the founder of Mute Records, never met Gary Numan in his life. And he's like, we just ran into each other one time backstage randomly, but that was it. So I had the honor to basically take Daniel in the bus, and we walked in. And there was Gary Numan sitting. And the first thing that Gary Numan said to Daniel, I always wanted to release on Mute Records.
Wow, what a story.
And you never let me. And then we were sitting back there having some drinks. It was fun. And
were they chatty with one another? How was that?
Very chatty with one each other. It was really, really fun. I was just sitting as a quiet person in the corner in the tour bus.
Gary looks so German, though.
You know,
yeah, he does. Funny. And it was one of those moments where I was sitting in the bus like, what the fuck is happening here right now?
Yeah, I remember in 2013 or something like that, Chris, you had asked me to do a remix.
We had dinner together.
Oh, that was for Daniel Miller, but you had asked me to do a remix for Brian Black's Project Motor. And you gave me a selection of tracks, and there was one track that had vocals from Gary Numan on it. And I told Chris, I'm like, dude, I'm a huge fan of Gary Numan. I'd love to do the remix. So they sent that track over to me, and I it's still one of the remixes that I'm incredibly proud of. But like maybe 4 or 5 years later, I was backstage at a Nine Inch Nails show, and I had told Alessandro that I've always wanted to meet Gary Numan. I really want to meet him. So, you know, after the show was done and the band was like, you know, blah, 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 Alessandro's like, come on, man, I want you to meet him. So I went over there, and he's like, hey, this is my friend Mo. And he introduced me to him. And I was like, hey, Gary, man, I'm a big fan. I've always wanted to meet you. You know, I did a remix of the track that you did vocals on for Motor. And he was like, what track? It was almost like he didn't even remember. And I was like, yeah, you know, the track that you did for Motor. He's like, yeah, so what? I was like, yeah, I shot myself in the fucking foot with that one, man.
Dude, you're not alone. He didn't even remember he did vocals for me.
Yeah.
Not really.
I think I told this story before about Daniel Miller. I met Daniel Miller at Berghain. He was there partying with his wife, maybe.
Yeah, Diane.
He was like super high. And he was at the bar, and someone introduced me to him, and I was like, holy shit, you're Daniel Miller. And he's like, yeah, man. He's just like totally rolling off his like face, dude. It was hilarious. And
I met Daniel.
He was having a blast. I was like, damn, right on, dude.
I met Daniel at Richie's house in Berlin when he did the boiler room from his house.
Wow.
It was like me, him, Marcel Detman, Alva Nota.
Was that the moment where the elevator got stuck?
That's the moment the elevator got stuck, and we had the MDMA punch, and everybody was super destroyed off their faces. Yeah, they never. It's not on their archives for some reason. Maybe one day. Yeah,
Maybe it was too messy.
The boiler room from Rich's house. Yeah, that's
not when he's on the rooftop, is it? No, wait.
He was on the top floor of that building. It's not the rooftop, no.
Oh, I remember seeing a video of him on the rooftop.
Hey, Ezra.
That's like,
Look, there's Mo's son, Ezra.
Hello.
Hey, Ezra.
Hey,
everybody say hi, Ezra. Hello.
Hi.
Ezra, your daddy is still doing a show. Ezra, hey, how are you doing?
Why is it blue?
I don't know, bud. Sorry.
Is it blue? What's blue?
Why is it blue? You know, little kids, they got the most curious questions.
Guys,
yeah.
like in reflecting over the last year and where we are today and kind of like where we were March 25th when we did the first show, like, how do you feel about the last year? Like, do you feel like it was a reset? Like you got a lot of stuff done that you normally wouldn't have, that you feel healthier?
Wait a minute. Was the first show actually March 25th?
I believe it was March 25th.
Well, it's March 25th today. Maybe you're mixing that up. That would mean it's exactly the same day. That can't be happening.
I'm going to,
because the first time we did it was like on a Wednesday, right?
No, we always did it on a Thursday.
No.
No, March 26th.
Oh wow. It was on a Wednesday, wasn't it? It was not on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. We switched to Thursdays later.
Yeah.
No.
It's all trivial, to be honest.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So how do you guys feel about, was it a Tuesday? Could have been a Tuesday.
It wasn't a Thursday. I remember that.
Yeah. You guys feel healthier?
No.
I do.
Yeah. You feel a little uneasy about getting back into that cycle of gigging?
A little bit. I've been kind of nervous about it because, dude, I mean, if people go back to the first episode, like you can see my face was like a lot like fuller. You know, I lost a good amount of weight through the last year or so. So like I was able to focus on my health, which was good. But I'm scared of going back on tour and breaking that cycle that I have, like this cycle that I have of like I have a routine, man. Like it hasn't been broken at all.
You have a routine now, you mean? That hasn't been for the last year?
Because I haven't been traveling. So I have the routine of like eating and sleeping at the same time almost every day, practically every day. Yeah, every once in a while I'll go out and like, you know, have a couple of beers or something. But that routine, like once it becomes broken, I'm afraid that.
So what's the routine? When do you go to bed? When you get up?
Dude, I go to bed. I'm usually laying down by like 8:30, and I'm up. I'll probably fall asleep around 9:30.
Wow.
And I wake up around between 5 and 6 a.m. I wake up, and then I go exercise. Then I come home and I chill for about an hour before I have breakfast, and then I have breakfast. And it's the same, almost the same times every day. And it's been like this for the last year.
Did you try to create, or did you have routines like prior to this pandemic?
No,
not at all.
It was always I go to sleep when I'm tired. I mean, I go to sleep when I'm tired now, but it was like it depending on the day I'd landed from a tour, you know, like sometimes I wouldn't be able to go to sleep till 10 or 11. But I was always a morning person, that's for sure. But
I mean, you sent messages like,
I'm like waking
5:30 in the morning or something.
Yeah,
like you.
yeah.
I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I wake up and I see all the messages from like Chris and Matt and, you know, Mo, because he's up late. And I'll respond right away. But yeah, that's one thing I'm like, damn, I hope I think mentally I'm already there where I think I could stick to my diet and my routine now.
Mm.
I think if it would have happened 4 or 5 months into everything, that probably would have screwed me. But I think now I've become more conscious of all my decisions and like what to eat and what to do. So definitely for me, that is I've grown in that sense, you know.
Mm. Wow. And Chris, how do you feel about going back on tour? Are you excited about it?
Oh my God.
We can ask Mo first.
I kind of almost feel the same as yeah. I just wanted to ask Mo, how much more time do you have? Because I really would love to hear a little bit more of your story as well before I want to dive into David's story. Do you have to
It's
leave
gonna
us
be a
soon? I
long.
know that.
This is gonna be like
I
a
mean,
4 hour show.
usually we end the show in about 10 minutes. I don't know
Yeah.
how much faster, how much longer you wanted to
I
keep the show
I
going.
don't know. Fuck that. It's just I don't have anything to do. It's just I'm asking you.
I mean, I have my son who's kind of waiting for me, so I have as much time as he gives me. If he's patient watching TV and doesn't bother me, then I have that much time. But as soon as he
Oh,
requires my
your life
attention,
story
I've
in,
got to go.
in 10 minutes.
Okay, no, then not don't need to tell your life story. Let's stick to the question that Ali was asking. Is like Mo, I realized you don't really have a rhythm. Like it's totally contrary to what David just told us. I sometimes see you online when we message each
Yeah.
other that you're messaging. You're up at 8 in the morning, and then I sometimes see you up still at 3 in the morning. Like what's going on? What's happening? Why is it so different to what is David experiencing? And you're so close to each other in a way.
Well, I mean, it's difficult to sum up quickly. Um, I, this whole pandemic's taken a pretty shitty turn for me in general. I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of tragic thing that's happened within family and around people I care about, and I've constantly had to take on responsibilities that I've never had to take on before in the past. So being able to carry all that burden and that weight and still try to find time to make music has been difficult, and especially trying to raise a child as well. Because now that my wife's working full time, I basically get 2 or 3 days in the studio max. So if I want to extend that time, then I pretty much have to work in the nighttime when my kid's sleeping. So I'll work until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, go down for a 2 hour power nap, and wake up 6 o'clock in the morning with him and spend the day with him. So I just try to put as much work as I can when I have the free time to do so. I just haven't really had, I just haven't had, what's the word I'm looking for? I just haven't been privileged with a lot of free time to be able to fit in the things that I would have loved to do during this pandemic. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, like some of
So,
us who are solo and have not the kids with us right now.
yeah. But I mean, other than that, it's been, I don't want to paint like a completely dark picture of everything. It's been a pretty shitty year, but in general, there's been a ton of positive things that have happened as well. So
I
being able
started
to
to like
spend,
make a list actually, like of the pros and cons of our situation.
yeah,
I just started today and listening to the past show, whatever, and being that it's been a year of this, like sometimes that helps is like writing down like all the things you benefited from having
absolutely.
downtime, all the obviously the just tragic things that are happening. There's financial issues everyone's having, creative blocks. There's a lot, and it helps to write it down. I think and look at it and be like, okay, well, I actually reset my body, my mind, got some stuff done, and family's okay, everyone's okay, and it makes you.
Ali, you switch between Barcelona and Washington D.C.
Yeah.
What kind of rhythm do you have right now?
Well,
Waking up and going
doing
to
the
bed.
show is easier in Barcelona, that's for sure.
Oh, right. Yeah. I think so too. It's like being in Europe doing the show is just so much more fun.
Yeah. Is that your first beer still, Chris?
It's still my first beer. If we do the show a little bit longer, I'm going to take you to the Späti, because since I'm in Berlin right now, which I haven't mentioned yet, I guess.
Are they still open this late over there?
I'm going to go to the Späti and going to go and get a beer. I could try. I don't know. This is literally the only beer I have here.
How are things in Berlin?
But wait, before I answer that question, how are things in Berlin? Like, David, I'm just wondering, how come you ended up having that early schedule getting up? Is that in your nature to be an early person?
Always been, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since I could remember, honestly, I just always in bed early, always up early riser since I was a kid.
But it's easier in LA for sure.
So basically, the DJ life was quite a challenge for you to stay up late, to DJ late nights.
This was the funny part, is that because I was in Europe, I was still technically like pretty much on schedule, because I was going
of course.
I was going to bed like at 6 a.m. over in Europe, which was like 9 or 10 p.m. in the US. So it actually kind of worked out. Like, if I was on a short tour, it was fine. It only sucked when I was in Europe for like 2 or 3 weeks. But that means I was in Europe midweek, staying up till 5 or 6 in the morning, falling asleep and waking up like at 2 p.m. And like, I can't even remember waking up and having breakfast in Europe, like, honestly, because I would sleep in, because that's the time I went to bed. And so, and I also didn't like changing my time, my schedule while I was in Europe, because I don't want to come back and be totally screwed out here. You know what I mean? I don't want to come back and be backwards. So,
which totally makes sense. I mean, this is super easy for you then.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
So you come over here, even if like, it's easy.
Yeah, there's times where I was in Europe for 5 weeks or more, and I wouldn't change my schedule. I'd be like, nope, I'm gonna stay up till 5, 6 a.m. and go to sleep. And that way when I come back, I'm totally normal, But the times where I got really screwed is going to like Asia and Australia. That's when I would come back and just be fucked up. Like,
we all fucked up and screwed by that.
Yeah, and trips. Like I would be falling asleep like at 4 p.m. when I'm back home. I'm like falling asleep, man. And that was hard to shake. Those were hard to shake.
I mean, I tell you, these are the things I do not miss. These super, super tired moments where you just land somewhere, you get taken to the hotel, and you're just so incredibly fucking tired. And you're going to be picked up in 1.5 hours to play like a 3-hour set. It's something that I don't miss. I don't miss that at all.
It gives me anxiety thinking about that, especially like flying from LA to Europe and then doing that first gig. Yeah. And then you have that fucking, 11 a.m. flight, even though you finished at 6, and you're like, oh, dude, that gives you like, it just gives you like 2 or 3 hours where you're just about to get that really deep sleep. And then you got to set the alarm. Oh.
And it was a lot, like getting sleep, like 8 hours was a luxury that like rarely happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ali, what's your rhythm in DC now?
My rhythm's all over the place, to be honest with you, man. Like some nights I go to bed by 1 or 2 latest. Some nights I'm up till like 5, 6 in the morning. Sometimes I decide late at night to bake bread, and that's got its own timeline. and that keeps me. But there's something. I love the quiet moments of 3, 4, 5 in the morning. There's just a vibe that is really magical. I love like watching a movie, sipping tea at 4 in the morning.
Right.
While everything is shut down and everyone's asleep and stuff. There's a certain tranquility is the word I was looking for. There's
beautiful.
A certain tranquility that I don't want to sleep through, because I enjoy feeling the effects of that tranquility,
Yeah. I always felt that in late nights in the studio in Frankfurt when we were sitting till like 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. There he goes.
But it's funny. It's funny talking about the late nights. Like I remember, because I was always a very early morning person. And then when I would work in the studio with Mo, it would be at night. So I would be in his studio till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And like, falling asleep when he had a couch. He used to have a couch in the back corner. I'd always be on that couch like falling asleep because like for me that's like way past bedtime.
Yeah.
So it was so hard to collab with Mo.
I have so many memories of like.
To be absolutely fair, when I work in Berlin in the studio with Luis, there is no sleep schedule. I mean, we get in the studio and sometimes we're in the studio for 13 or 14 hours and somebody falls asleep on the couch and the other person's working, and then 3 hours later you wake up and that person says, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and then he walks to the bathroom and then he disappears for 6 hours, and then you realize he's sleeping on the couch. So you're working in the studio, and then they wake up and then you're working in the studio together. And sometimes we're going to bed at 2:00 in the afternoon and waking up at 9 p.m. and then getting back in the studio and working again. So
it's like
to all those young people watching, this is a really unhealthy lifestyle.
It's an incredibly unhealthy
lifestyle. How funny is that nap that you take when the other person is working and they have the music that you're working on blasting and you've fallen asleep, but it's still being a little intrusive in your sleep cycle. And then you're coming in and out of sleep and you're hearing what's happening, but you're so tired, you know, you end up falling back to sleep. You're like conscious, but not conscious. You know, you're in this weird state, but that music is constantly blasting. It's the weirdest feeling in the world. It's like
the thing at that house where at Luis Flores' house is like time doesn't exist in that house. Like you would not know what time of day it is unless you like walk into like the living room. But even then he has like those blackout curtains, and yeah, everyone goes like nobody is on the same sleep schedule in that house. It's kind of funny. No.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's weird because like, you know, we wake up and you start working on music and it's like 6 p.m. and then, you know, we're working and then we look at the clock again and it's like 2:45 in the afternoon the next day, and you're like, oh shit, where the hell have we been all this time, man?
Oh man.
I think when I as you know, I moved to Switzerland actually in December, and the mountains living up there totally changed. I consider myself as a night person, but my rhythm changed into a rhythm that David actually has. I'm super happy to be in bed, like lie in bed by at latest 10. And it's just like, oh, great. And then you wake up around 7 in the morning and you look outside and you're just checking, like the nature kind of dictates you like, oh, that's nice. You're going to go outside, you do your little thing, you just go up the mountain. And it's a whole different life. It's so interesting for me to realize that over the course of the year, how different my life was in Frankfurt, in a city, and how it changed being sort of in a mountain village kind of thing. And I do believe I have become more productive in the mountains actually than I was in Frankfurt. Yeah. It's quite interesting. So I'm also a little bit afraid of going back on tour and having these really weird sleep rhythms or no sleep rhythm at all. I think that's the most terrifying thing I've always felt with touring, was like the loss of sleep and the lack of sleep and the functioning on a lack of sleep. And that's something I'm not really essentially looking forward to. I'm looking forward to everything else but that lack of sleep kind of shit.
I wonder how many DJs are making that decision right now, like either alone or with their families. Like, I don't think I want to return to that life that I had. You know,
do you think?
For some, it's too difficult because they've had this routine that they always wanted when they were DJs, that they now have had over the last year, and they're like liking it, you know, and they don't want to go back to. I've talked to a bunch of people who are just like, they share, I think, you know, all of our thoughts on this subject of being a little scared. I mean, I've had some shows, so for me,
I know, but I would have to say DJing is more important than sleep for me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Priorities.
That's the right answer.
And by the way, I'm in Berlin. The original idea was to actually surprise you guys. That's why I didn't tell you. To do the show together with Matt tonight, and the original idea was like, let's not tell the other guys. I'm just not gonna go online, and you guys are gonna be all online, and then I'm just gonna appear right behind his chair, like, hi.
Oh,
Like
That would have been good.
this is what we wanted to do, like the whole fucking year on the show. Like do one show where where at least two of us are in the same window of that Zoom thing, like in the same, like two people in the same. And it almost would have worked out, but sadly, we all wish him really a speedy recovery. Matt has a really bad cold, to mention that again, and he couldn't join us for the show tonight, and that's why I'm sitting here in my little Airbnb in Berlin without Matt.
You guys tried to do that from when you guys played that Berlin party together.
Oh yeah, but I remember that. But I ended up playing and playing and playing, and Matt was standing behind me, and we looked at each other and said, don't we have the show right now? Oh, I guess the guys have to do the show without us. This party is more important.
Yeah, that's right.
Was it weird? It must have been great actually being like in the same space with Matt, who was, he's on the screen. We're talking to each other on the screen, and then here you are in the same space, sharing the same space. Like, was that awkward or weird or?
Oh, dude, it's so weird. I had this experience with Matt, obviously, when we played. I didn't see him. Now I'm here in Berlin for 4 days, and I didn't get to see him. The plan was to hang out tonight, but today I had twice this experience, which was weird. First with Daniel, who I kind of spent a really nice time together with before the pandemic. And we decided to go for a walk today, and we looked at each other like, wow, we haven't seen each other in literally a year. And you look at each other, it's like, wow, it's like you Zoom with each other on a regular basis and you have your meetings, but it's a different thing to see each other. And then just after Daniel, I met up with Aurelia, who's my booker. And we didn't see each other for a year, and we just looked at each other as like, this is such a surreal experience to see someone again you kind of constant contact with, but on this digital thing, like in the screen, but not on a human level, like directly touching each other or being in the same room. It is a weird thing. It's probably something that's we all going to experience, that all of us, when we see each other again. It's like we're going to like, wow, I saw you every week, but that's the real you. That's like let me like, and that's why I realized, like, I had such an urge to give Daniel a hug, but we wanted to keep the social distancing because we don't want to go into any risk and anything. It's like, there is this need that we need to connect, and there is also the need that we need to connect, even if it's only with a hug, to give each other the comfort of, hey, I'm here for you, you're here for me, we're friends, we're in this together. And so many of us didn't have this for over a year now. This is really something that is missing.
Definitely.
Totally. Yeah. Well,
I see David all the time.
Yeah, Mo and I, we just
you guys have seen,
You guys can hug and see each other all the time, right? So by the way, when are you going to get vaccinated, guys?
Tomorrow.
Right, you guys in the USA are so advanced with your vaccination.
I already got my first shot, so my parents are all vaccinated.
Yeah, my parents are vaccinated. I don't know.
My mom got her second shot today.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through hoops like Mo to get. I'll just wait.
There was no hoops, really. I mean, I went online.
Dude.
I made an appointment.
Just say you have diabetes, dude. That's what this supposed to. Just say you have diabetes. They're not going to check.
Well, the thing is that nobody here, at least from the West Coast, and even all my family members who kind of work in the medical field, they have an online screening program where they ask you questions to see if you qualify for it. Yeah. And then when you actually show up, no one checks.
Yeah.
What if I'm that one person they check and I waited in that damn line and they show up and they go,
they don't check. They don't ask any questions.
They don't check because they don't really care, because they need to get people vaccinated, period.
It's all about getting as many. It's a race against time. You just get everyone as many people as possible vaccinated.
So then why are people getting angry when they're getting their shots out of turn?
Well, if you're
understand.
cutting in line, then yeah, I'm sure
No,
that'll piss
well,
anybody off.
you're technically cutting in line.
Yeah, but you hate the player at the game. You got to hate the game, not the.
Yeah, that's true.
No, but you're not really cutting in line if there's no one in line.
That's the
But
thing.
I mean, like okay,
the person in line is missing. He's not there, so just take
It's
his
not.
place.
It's not
period.
like there's a shortage of available, appointments
there
to
was.
get there. They're
There
on
was a
there. If you
shortage.
go on, you can make an appointment to go tomorrow if you want.
Definitely not. I mean, there's all the vaccination sites are like fucking empty. Like there's so many anti-vaxxers.
I have to say from an outside perspective, looking over the US, and guys, I have criticized the USA over the past 4 or 5 years really enough. But what I have to say, looking from the outside, the USA is doing a fucking incredible job of vaccinating people right now. And the rest of the world should look towards the US like, how the fuck are they doing this? Especially
Really?
Europe. Europe is fucking up with their vaccinations, seriously. The US is on top of the game when it comes to vaccinations.
I thought we were behind.
No, I'd have to second Chris
No,
on that as
none.
well.
Really?
The U.S.
None.
has really kind of stepped up in the last months and has really provided quite a bit of vaccinations for people.
Use such a forefront of everything when it comes to vaccination.
I thought the
right
UK
now.
was
Isn't that the single most important fucking thing that we can do on the planet right now? Vaccinate everyone.
Well,
isn't that like the one thing that everybody should just fucking focus on right now? And Europe is just dropping the ball, and especially Germany. It's just insane what the government is just not capable of doing at the moment. I could go mental on that.
Well, here's one thing about the States. Once you threaten their pocketbook, I guess they'll step up to fix any problem.
Yeah.
Can't have the economy closed down anymore. Too many rich people are losing money. You got to get people vaccinated.
Actually, the richest people got richer during the lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're like but
even they realize they need a normal world to continue to maybe enjoy their wealth and everything, so let's fucking get everybody vaccinated as soon as possible. And that's what I admire with the US. Once you set your mind to something, you make things work. You open up stadiums to turn them into vaccination places. Here in Germany, it's like, I applied for vaccination because I'm eligible because of my mother, who's 87 years old, and I'm a caretaker in a way. And my nephew actually declined to be vaccinated, even that he had an appointment. And I was standing there, was like, I'm taking his place, and they were like, nope. Computer says no, you're not eligible. We'd rather throw away the vaccine rather than vaccinate you. And that's German. That's Germany. That's where you're just like, oh my fucking God.
Wait, so whatever happened to the AstraZeneca thing that they stopped using? Did that continue? Is that back again or?
So compare that with the pill, with the anti-pregnancy, what do we call it? Anti-pregnancy pill? What do we call it? What's the name of it?
Birth control.
It's just called the pill.
Birth control, birth control pills. Birth control pills cause about 1,000 issues for 1 million people who take that pill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's still administered everywhere. Everybody takes birth control pills, all the females, but it causes 1,000 issues, health issues. The AstraZeneca, once it got administered, they found out that it causes 6 issues for 1 million people who get vaccinated. 6, not 1,000, 6. And everybody was like, oh, we can't use this vaccine anymore because they might get complications.
Yeah.
6 people out of the 1 million, and you want to stop it? So they stopped it. And everybody was like, what the fuck? We need to get people vaccinated. What is 6 people compared to 1 million people? Like, why do you stop it? And it just basically was stopped for like 5 days until they came to their senses and said, like, all right, we better use it again. So it's in use again.
Was it the only vaccine available in Germany?
No, that was the other one, which is the help me.
Do you have the Russian one?
There's
No,
Moderna,
we have
Pfizer.
Oh, Moderna, Pfizer.
No, the Pfizer is the German one. You know, the German one.
Yeah.
The original one, which has to be cooled down. That is the original one. This is the one my mother got as well. The AstraZeneca is the one where they were not too sure if they should give it to people older than 65.
That's the
So
Oxford
it's-
vaccine, I think.
Yeah.
That's
That's
AstraZeneca.
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one that's really, it's the most affordable. So it's the one
Right.
that, you know, most of the other countries are buying, you know, especially the third world countries.
Right.
The one that's gonna.
Well, guys, it's been a great show. My son's still waiting for me to go play with him before this day's over, so I'm gonna have to hop off this call.
All right, Mo.
You know what, Mo?
All good.
Family first. That's the most important.
Definitely.
It's been
Congratulations to 1 year.
Happy anniversary.
So
Happy anniversary, Mo.
happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. It was a great interview, Ollie.
Thank you.
Someday
That was
we'll get around-
unexpected.
Yeah.
I wish we could have continued this with you, David, and with you, Mo,
Maybe at another
Like-
time.
telling the origin stories. Maybe we have to do it at another time. But next week we have another guest, right? So Mo, go away now. Go,
Yeah.
Mo.
See you
Go
guys
ahead.
next week, and we'll tell a story another day if another day comes.
Yes.
Cheers.
Ciao, Mo.
Next
Who's
week we
next?
have Brian Black Asteroid.
Ah,
What?
yes.
Next week already? Are you sure?
Mr. Rick Owens.
No. Brian is on April 2nd in 2 weeks.
That's next week, dude.
Yeah, that's next week, April 1st.
April 1st is next week.
What?
Yeah.
Where
Look at the calendar.
does the time go?
Dude, it's going to be April already.
Okay.
Yeah, next
well, we
April.
have-
It's April Fool's Day.
Okay, we've already mentioned Brian in our show today. Brian Black is our guest next week, and we're going to have some more origin stories because Brian actually used to work for Prince and Paisley Park, and Brian was in a band called Mordor, which we talked about today.
And didn't he come out? Well, I guess we'll ask, but he was like in an indie film. I saw him post on
sure.
Facebook. He posted.
Brian is definitely an amazing character to have on the show. I'm sure he's going to wear his sunglasses.
And Rick Owens. He'll be wearing Rick Owens.
For sure, Rick Owens.
Definitely will.
We should all wear our
So-
Rick Owens. Well, Chris, I'm sure you got.
I don't own any Rick Owens.
You know, yeah.
Not my vibe. But no, I got nothing against it.
All right. Well, thank you for interviewing me on today's episode of DJs and Beers.
Hope you enjoyed our DJs and beers with our guest Ali Dubfire.
I'm really sad I can't take you to the Späti now. I was actually planning.
Are you
on
going
that
to the
get another-
Späti to get beer now?
No,
Shall we
we'll
do
hang
this?
out. Let's hang on while you go.
Yeah, shall I try and go there? Let's see if the Späti is still open.
Yeah, let's see. We'll all tag along.
All right.
Let's
You
see if we
tag
lose
along,
connection.
Chris, what's
ask-
Berlin like right now?
Ask me anything.
Oh, he's already breaking up.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
It's not gonna work.
Sure. No, I'm not breaking up. I'm here. I just need to talk to you on the microphone. How Berlin is?
Yeah.
Berlin is. My internet.
Are people like out and about? Or?
I'm just gonna walk outside. Then. I'm just gonna walk quickly outside.
Is that Rick Owens?
Then I have internet connection.
Is that a Rick Owens
It
sweater?
looks
No,
pretty
it's
Rick.
Boris.
Ah, it's
Dude,
Boris.
it's Boris.
It's a nice Boris.
What are you talking about?
I feel like
Huh?
his connection is gonna break up.
Go ahead, man.
What part of town are you in, Chris?
Not gonna break up. Don't worry. I just need to get.
David, where was the place you were renting with Mo?
It's in Kreuzberg.
Kreuzberg. And you don't have it anymore, right?
Well, yeah, it's still there. Like Luis still lives there, and it's
Luis Flores.
Yeah, it's available for when we go back.
You guys
Yeah,
hear me again?
There, Kreuzberg.
Are you guys still here?
Yeah. So you got some of your stuff there still? Like,
Dude, I have records and clothes and
oh, shit.
yeah, from all
Wow.
the times I've gone shopping in.
So we get to see Berlin.
Yeah, dude, I miss Berlin so much, dude. I haven't been there, and it's been a year.
Wow.
The last time I was there, last February. Yeah.
Chris, it'd be funny if you go to Matt's house.
Oh, go
and
knock.
wake him up.
I mean,
Wake him up, and say, Matt, I got beer.
Matt, I got beer and I got ibuprofen. Let's take some. I'm in Prenzlauer Berg here. I have an Airbnb at Prenzlauer Berg.
You're in.
I'm actually here because I had a photo shoot yesterday. Ooh, fancy photo shoot. I had some really nice pictures taken of me. It's all for my upcoming album this year. So that was the main reason I came. And then obviously I combined that trip with some meetings because my booking agency is here. My manager lives, both of my managers live here. And I just see that the store, as you probably expected,
it's closed.
Closed. So where's the next Späti?
Because I've heard there everything closes early now because of COVID.
Is it?
It's got to be closed.
Walk a little.
Sure.
So it was really listening. It was really cold.
Maybe a fan the show will go catch up to you.
Okay, David, do you have the comments inside? I'm on Wichertstraße right now.
I'm curious. What are the comments?
How do you spell that?
Wichertstraße, corner Dunkerstraße.
Dunkelstraße.
Dunkerstraße and Wichertstraße, and I thought this
Whistle
is still open.
Whistlestraße?
Huh?
Did you say Whistlestraße?
No, Wichertstraße.
I don't even know how to spell
that. Is on. And
someone said Google Maps.
Dunkerstraße in Berlin is hello everyone. There's people on the street.
Justin, do we have anybody watching?
Let me see.
Dunkerstraße in Berlin.
Yeah, no. There's still on the YouTube, there's still 150 people watching.
Hey.
Oh, okay.
Hey, wait a minute. Justin, can you come on? Or are you asleep or in your sleeping dress or whatever?
No, he's there. He's tuned in.
I want to say hi to. Congratulations, Justin. We have to congratulate you too.
Congratulations on shaving the mustache.
On hanging
that's what's different about you. I was like, damn, what's that? Wow. What made you do that when everyone's growing beards?
Alicia Keys, right? Yeah, congrats. Damn, that's a big deal, dude.
You got to keep that on the down low, or can.
Oh shit, my bad.
Dude, you're looking. You're looking like 22.
Is there a dump button?
Right now, you look like you're like 16.
Bro, for real. You got like the surfer hair and the hat on backwards, like.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody watching? Can you tell me where there's a Späti open on Dunkerstraße in Berlin right now?
Sorry, guys.
Do we have any quick questions?
Go to Kyle Geiger's house. he's probably live on Twitch right now. Anyway.
Kyle, are you with us somewhere?
I mean, what time is it over there? It's like 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's like 11. It's almost midnight.
No, it's 23, dude.
Oh, yeah. So did you have a mask on?
Me?
Chris doesn't have a mask. Ooh.
Not walking around, but I'm getting close to some sort of lights, but I have my mask with me.
I don't think you're gonna find an open place, dude.
There's some sort of store. I think I see something. Let me see. There's definitely a lot of people walking around here. So what happened in Germany, in case you don't know, the German government last week decided that they want to do a super hard lockdown again, like close everything down next week, including supermarkets, like fucking everything. Like literally nobody's allowed to travel, nobody's allowed to do anything. And apparently no one was really on board with it, especially the German public. So yesterday, the Chancellor, Angela Merkel, announced that, she apologized, and she was like, okay, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I found a store right this way. And she apologized, and we're like, okay, we're not going to do the lockdown thing. Don't worry, guys, be easy. Because the funny thing is that the German government essentially allowed people to take a plane to Mallorca, because Mallorca's lockdown was, restrictions were loosened. So Germans could travel there. So essentially it was possible for Germans to fly to Mallorca to hang out there and go to the beach, but they were not allowed to go to the German beaches in the north of Germany and the German islands, because that was lockdown. Like, how insane is that, you know? And everybody was like, what? And so it became pretty apparent that the German government is really out of ideas and have nothing to do anymore. And then a meme went around where it was basically saying, like, the government has a new idea of what to do next. They're going to throw a virgin into a Vulcan. And we hope things are going to get better by then.
Wait, but are the cases rising that bad in Germany? I feel like it's not. When I looked, it didn't look like that terrible.
Well, yes.
Why are the lockdowns happening again?
This fancy R factor that everybody's talking about that should be below 100, that is going up. And what the issue is, and which is a kind of understandable, what the issue is all the these variations.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, right.
The South African and the English variation of that virus, and that's what everybody is really afraid of, because nobody really knows, and that kind of throws you back 1 year. Like, no one knows, what is this virus actually doing with us? And now we have these variations, and now everybody's like, oh, we don't know what the variation is doing with us, so we better close everything down. But nobody's on board. But look at this, I think I found a store.
There you go.
Don't get run over.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, this crazy guy's talking to himself.
Grab me a Duna while you're at it.
That crazy guy is like walking around with his laptop in his hand.
Oh, you have a laptop in your hand?
I have my laptop in my
Oh
hand.
my
You brought
God.
your whole laptop.
This is
That's
my
so
laptop.
funny.
How do you have Wi-Fi right now?
Laptop is connected.
To his phone.
My
hotspot?
laptop is connected to my phone.
Ah.
Dude, buy some. You can buy some.
Thinking.
I see. You can buy some produce. It looked like already. Just don't get your phone stolen. I mean, your
No,
laptop.
I cannot only buy beer here.
How funny would it be if somebody grabs this laptop, starts running,
Runs away with it.
and then he becomes the guest on our.
Well, he's recorded.
Okay.
We got him.
That would be
I'm
hilarious.
gonna-
We can interview the
walk
guy
in
who
here
stole your laptop.
Hello.
The internet on your phone is better than in.
So how did these
than the
guys?
apartment.
There you go. He's like, well, are we live or?
Which one should I take?
Just say you're with Vice TV. Chris.
Oh, his connection's not bad. Get some Hellas.
Justin, any
There you go.
interesting questions?
Everyone's just enjoying the journey that Chris is taking us on right now.
You know, hey, we're getting a small tour of Berlin. I haven't been to Berlin in a year, so I miss it there. I miss going into the Späti and grabbing beers in the middle of the night.
This isn't the first time Chris has taken us on a journey to get beer.
That's right. That's right.
Second time, guys.
Second. Once in Frankfurt too, I think I remember.
There you go.
Oh, it was in Frankfurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hallo.
Say hi.
Dankeschön.
Hallo. Großartig. Ich musste nur ein bisschen neues Bier kaufen. Ja. Dankeschön. Tschüss, schönen Abend noch.
Juicy.
Yeah, I got my beer. It's so nice here, these people. Look, there's dogs with green things around their necks.
Do you think anyone recognize you? Have you ever been like walking down the street and someone goes like, "Hey, Chris Liebing"? Does that happen often in Berlin?
No, it actually happened in Berlin. It never really happened in Frankfurt. It just happened in Frankfurt once, funny enough, during the lockdown, which I didn't expect at all. But Frankfurt is not really a party town. It kind of occasionally happens in Berlin now, but otherwise not.
There was a time I was with Hyperactive in Berlin, and we were walking to, like, I don't know, to go grab some food or something, and some guy on a bike was riding right past us. And as soon as he passed us, you hear him like stop really hard, like on his bike, go, shh, and he goes, "Truncate and DJ Hyperactive." That shit was hilarious. He came back. He turned around and came back. Was like, "Oh man, I love you guys. You guys, I'm a big fan." That's the first time that's ever happened to me.
Wow.
Actually,
But isn't
even
it
the last time.
in a way, it's a nice feeling, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
like you get
it was
recognition
weird
for
too.
your work.
It was weird too, but yeah, it obviously felt really.
I'm getting run over now.
Yeah.
Well, should we wrap up?
Yeah, I was
Well,
like,
what is this is the second time I get beer while we do the show? I did that once in Frankfurt, did I?
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe we can start another show where each of you guys can take us on a tour around.
David, I'm starting to hear that wrap it up beat music in the background.
Wrap it up.
Oh, I still have to open that one beer. Hold on.
I'll play Westham's alarm clock while you do that.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do that.
The thing is, in my neighborhood, I can't just go, like, my nearest liquor store is not a quick walk. Like, it's probably as much as Chris walked. Yeah. You know, that's what I like about Berlin. You can just open up a beer and walk down the street. And
Yeah. You
just
know,
drink
this
beer.
is the land of the free here.
That's really the free, right?
That's the
Not
land
really.
of the free.
You guys
here.
gonna be locked down again.
It's like, do this in Washington State, you're going to be arrested right now, or in California.
Wrap it up, B.
I was about to play it.
I'm going to try to find my. Okay, guys, I'm going to try to find my way home now. Again, which was not too far.
Actually, the music works with "You're Walking in the Dark Streets of Berlin."
It's like a music video.
Yeah. All right.
I wish there was someone.
Thank you,
videotaping
everyone.
This watching,
Yeah.
walking with the laptop.
Success. Chris, you made it to the Späti.
I made it. There's still a Späti open.
Happy anniversary, guys.
I got a
Thank
beer.
you,
It was a
everyone.
fantastic year with everyone. Thank you so much. Everybody who's been following us from day one, thank you so much. We turned the first show into a podcast now, which is going to be available then.
Hopefully next
pretty-
week.
Next week.
Yep.
Hopefully next week, so you can listen to this on your phone without a YouTube
Without
channel
looking at our-
subscription or whatever.
You can walk around your hometown without a laptop.
Yeah, you can go to
Yeah.
the Späti and listen to the show. And
Yeah,
read-
you don't, and the best thing about it is you don't need to see us.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to see us. So you can watch we're going to turn all the shows which from last year now into podcasts, so you can re-listen if you want to, if you desire to, and that's how
Thanks
how
for-
things go.
Cheers,
Thanks
y'all.
for tuning in over the last year, everyone.
Yeah,
Love
and thanks
you
really
guys.
to everyone who's been with us from the first day. It means a lot.
Yes.
And
Thank
the
you to
support
all the
was
beer
great.
suppliers that we met along
Right.
this journey. Brian at Stillwater for the delicious beer, who I'm going to be collaborating with very soon.
I'm jealous
Yeah.
about
Cool. What kind of collaboration, Ali?
Oh, we'll get into it next
Fire
week.
beer.
that.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys.
All right,
See
big
you,
greetings
everyone.
from Berlin. Thanks for everybody watching.
Cheers, guys.
Speak soon, guys.